For those of you who just came on online, we've already started the service, and I apologize because I forgot to push the button. But it's good to see you. And this will be recorded, and I will be releasing later and sharing with Barry a link to YouTube as well. So starting from this point forward, this is going to be on YouTube. Has anybody else gotten the courage yet? I know there's lots of memories. Not just shopping. You know, the nature of a pastor. Oh, there we go. I got a couple.
Hi, I'm Christina, and I met Sandy a long time ago when she was treasurer at the West Valley Family Church, and the sweetest lady ever. And she had us over for dinner one time, years ago, and she had decorated the whole house basically in red, white, and blue. It was, I forget if it was close to the 4th of July, but she had decorated the whole place. And then she had the Coca-Cola collection. And then just, I just got chills. just really hit me. Like, and she was really serious about the theme and everything. I don't go through that kind of trouble to decorate the house all that much, but she was on top of it. And we just really enjoyed that evening with her. Special time.
So my name is Alexis. I'm daughter-in-law. Or one of them at least, anyways. Very early on in our marriage, we were in an apartment for a while. We were looking to get a house. It was like just it was 2010, so it was a little rough on getting approved to get anything, anyways. And Sandy and Perry had invited us to stay with them at their house, a newborn little baby, and we didn't want to get locked into another 6-month or 8-year lease. And we're trying to do this thing with the house and everything, and it was really it was a great memory to look back on and have dinner and everything. Now, obviously, we were never short of food. That was not a problem. There's plenty to go around all the time. Whatever you wanted, it's there. But one thing that is always kind of funny is most people know that I am not a morning person at all. But young children, especially like 1-year-olds or younger than that, are very much early morning people. So we were able to counter each other pretty well, taking care of Annabelle. And I would get to sleep in, and Sandy said it was always funny in the morning to hear Annabelle open the bedroom door, and you could just hear her little hands splatting on the floor, crawling out to her, say good morning. And so Sandy would take care of Annabelle until I woke up, and then I would take care of Annabelle until she went back to sleep in the evening. And whatever time she happened to wake up 3 or 4 times throughout the night. But it was great. She was not hesitant to help me, but if I was having trouble, I don't know if many of you were aware that I had still do battle with some pretty bad depression. And she would say, let's get off laundry, let's do all the laundry, let's start cleaning some things, and just help out. And it was, I did really appreciate that. I'm not 100% sure if I deserve it. But I really did appreciate the help. It's not an easy thing to talk about, for sure. But Rob was there, and a lot of people say, why do you work so much? Why does Alexis stay home? Why does she, why isn't this, why does she help me? I was like, I was not at a place where I could. And it seemed like Sandy did understand that, and she was able to help me. And she did not criticize my not working more or anything. I did what I could when I could. And so she helped me take care of my family. Her and Harry both were there. And I appreciated that very, very much. And I know it's difficult for Rob and Annabelle to think it was like 4th of July or something, and Annabelle does not like fireworks. But she was decked out in her 4th of July, red, white, and blue, and she's annoyed for some reason, as children get to be. But she's wearing this like little hat thing, like one of those little like bands, and it has like these things, and she's so annoyed and like has this angry scowl on her face, and she's eating her pot roast so angrily, but she looks so silly because she has this thing, and we couldn't stop laughing at her. And it was the funniest little thing, and it's still, there's so many funny memories living with them. There's when Annabelle was like maybe 2, I think, we had a playpen that Sandy managed to get on the cheap, really cheap. And Annabelle didn't know what to do with it. She'd never been restricted in that way. So she's like pushing her face up against the mesh. And like Sandy got this picture of her, and she's like, look what your child is doing. Like she's contained, she doesn't like it. But again, it's another funny picture I come across occasionally. And it's just like, most of the time the stories, I had heard, I'm not sure if it was a therapist or somebody that said it, pay attention to what people take pictures of, because it's what they love. It's what is cherished in their mind. And there's so many pictures that Annabelle was in, that Sandy took, and the boys, where that was something that made her smile, that she cherished. And so it's not the picture necessarily that's fun to look at, but it's the story behind the picture that has the precious. Thank you, Sandy, and thank you guys for letting me talk.
Thank you. All right, who else feels that burning that doesn't want to get up? See, I warned you, if we don't get a lot of memories, that means more sermon. So. Anyone? All right. I warned you. Sandy was a long time, is a lifetime member of the...
71. 71.
71 years of being a Nazarene. Was she born in the Nazarene?
52.
In 1952, yeah. She, her father was a pastor. It mentions that in a short biographical text in your service order. She chose, maybe just by the influence of her family, to be a Nazarene. But what is a Nazarene, and why did she love it so much? Now, I know several of you are members of the Nazarene Church. I'm going to go through a little bit of why it influenced Sandy so much. A little bit of our own history. You see, when the Nazarene Church started, it began with... Sorry, I got a little distracted by my wife remembering the verses up here. Anyway, with the Nazarene Church, we started out with a Methodist background, and the founder, being Methodist, really believed in taking care of the people around you. He wanted to go to the soup kitchens and preach there among the homeless. It was downtown LA, in the Korean area of LA. And I understand that there's still a lot of homeless people there. But that was his heart, to deal with people that really needed and love. And that's where the foundation of this church started. But the Methodist Church at the time said, nope, we don't want you doing that. Those are homeless people. They're not bringing in a lot of tithes and things like that. Well, I'll tell you what, that wasn't for Sandy either. What Sandy was doing in her life exemplified that when it came to dealing with the children with special needs. Certainly, both Perry and Sandy could have done fostering of children that were just regular children that didn't need anything special. But they knew, Perry and Sandy knew how important it was to care for the least of our people. I'm wandering back and forth partly because over here people are hiding behind the flowers. I don't know if they can see me very well. The Nazarene Church went a step further. Not only caring for the needy, but caring for one another. It's a church of love, a church of compassion. And this is part of what attracted Sandy to this denomination. Not just the fact that she was raised in it. She could have changed that at any time in her life. We are, as a denomination, the third largest in missions around the world. Mormon, then Catholic, then Nazarene. We are better known in the world than we are locally here in the United States. There are things that we do. Remember, we started out with the homeless, the needy, the people in the soup kitchens. And one of the things that we do, just to give you a little bit of background, we say, try not to drink in church or in membership. Why is that? Because we started out with people who were prone to alcoholism and may even be genetically prone to alcoholism, and we don't want to become this stumbling block for anybody. So it's not that alcohol is necessarily evil, as some people want to try to turn this into. We care. Just as Sandy cared. That's the important thing about being a Nazarene. Now, with Sandy, we have the assurance. We have an assurance that she is with God, with Jesus. If you look in the Bible, and I know the epistles, especially if you like the King James Bible, it's really hard to read through those epistles and follow along. Partly because Paul loved poetic language and poetic license. One of the things he would do is talk about one thing and then counter it with a counter argument. Faith on one hand, works on the other. Paul contrasted. And sometimes, without caring about what the Bible says, we end up focusing on what seems to sit well on our own heart, without looking at the contrast and finding out that really where we need to be is in the middle. Now, I'm going to show you, and this is faith in action. And this is kind of the heart of how Sandy lived her life. And this is why I'm sharing this with you. Faith in action. Just like the church she chose, the Bible, our experiences in life, as we grow and learn what the Bible says, what the Spirit says in our hearts, it changes us. And that's the key to understanding what it means to be a Nazarene. It's called holiness, but it's like the exposure to God can change you in your heart. Now, I mentioned faith versus works. But let's talk a little bit about it. In Romans chapter 5:15, it says, "But the gift is not like the trespass. For the many died by the trespass, the sins, of one man. And how much more did God's grace and the gift that came by the grace of one man, Jesus Christ, overflow to the many?" It's a gift. Paul makes it clear more than once in the Bible. It's a gift. When we talk about salvation, we all know the sinner's prayer. We've probably heard that 100 times or more. And that wasn't an exaggeration either. The sinner's prayer, some people want to make it a ritual. You got to say it just right. You got to repent. You got to, yeah. The sinner's prayer is most important in pointing out. Actually, it's in accepting the gift. You don't work for the gift. Remember I mentioned faith and works. You don't work for the gift. You get the gift and you accept the gift. And that's the prayer is, God, I really do accept you in my life. I really do accept the gift that you offer of salvation. And so, yes, we have assurance in that gift that the consequences of our sinful nature that we're born with, the consequences of that sinful nature, as soon as we accept that gift, is we are free from the consequences of those sins. Does it mean that we suddenly become perfected? Of course not. It's a journey. And the Spirit is the part that helps us to continue to grow in God's grace. So, understand, you can't buy a gift, can you? You cannot earn a gift. Otherwise, it would not be a gift. It would be a wage, a payment for what you did. And Paul right there just told us it's a gift. Now, why do we talk about works then? Why does Paul and James and others start talking about what does that gift mean? Why do we turn it into works? And some churches turn it into works so much that it becomes legalism. If you don't fit the mold, you're not welcome in the church. Not in this church, trust me. But in some places, if you don't fit that mold, if you carry some label, you don't belong. And that to me is extremely sad. Which is another reason why I feel like Sandy and Perry have continued to be faithful in the Church of the Nazarene. But let's talk a little bit about James. What did James say? What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, by faith itself, if it is not accompanied by action, That faith is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Well, show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. That's what James said. So action. Faith leads to action. If you love someone, do you leave them without food or clothing? Do you just walk away? Thoughts and prayers? Or do you do something about the people that you love? And I'm not saying the whole world. If you're called to a mission field, maybe that mission field is where your love is focused. But focus first on the people immediately around you. Focus on the people you encounter in your daily life. Because that's where your deeds are going to make the biggest difference. And this is a secret. It shouldn't be a secret, but it's a fact that many people just don't get. You don't need to try to change the politics. As in Romans 13 talks about, don't worry about who's ever in charge, whoever the leaders are. Romans said, just do the right thing. Forget about those that oppress you. You're part of God's kingdom. Reflect what God is. And the reason that I chose this scripture from James is look at the very things that Sandy did in her deeds. And it does reflect her faith. She could not sit on her hands and look at the special needs children and not reach out and care for them. Like I said, she very easily could have said, let's just go with the easy ones. Let's just go with the regular kids. We can help them with their homework, we can help them grow up, but she chose. And Perry did too. It was a joint effort. But we're remembering Sandy most today. Maybe I'll repeat this with Perry. if we're all alive still. He seems to be going strong. But anyway, that aside, it's that faith in God that became deeds. Like James says, show me your faith without deeds, without actions, without works. I'll show you my faith by my deeds, by the things that I do for the people around me. And Sandy showed her faith by the things for the people around her. That is what the Spirit does in a heart that learns to love one another. It wasn't just the children. She loved everyone. I mentioned in the very beginning, nobody is perfect. Nobody has been able to live a life without sin except possibly Job and Jesus. And I say possibly Job because in the end he did challenge God. And God kind of gently put him back in his place. So we're not perfect. And we do have that broken nature. And one of the most key things that I have observed in that broken human nature is the first thing out of a sinner's mouth is, what's in it for me? And that leads to possibly not sharing that love with someone else because there's nothing in it for me. Maybe we do nice things, but for our own personal reward. But Jesus said, you got your reward. You got your ego stroked. Good enough. You're done. But the people whose heart is open to the Spirit and engages with the Spirit begins to feel that love for the people immediately around them. I sometimes am called to deal with the homeless. Sandy was called for the special needs. When I go to a homeless person, I've chosen, and it's become automatic for me. I don't see a drug addict, alcoholic, uncaring person that just chose to live on the streets. I see a person who has potential. With the children, Sandy saw children with potential. And so I don't look at people in my own experience as who they are in this moment of time. But I look at them and I treat them as if they are already what they could be. I treat them with dignity and respect. And I saw Sandy do that with the kids. But that dignity and respect, believe it or not, when you treat another person like that, they actually try to grow into how they're treated. They actually do work to become that better person that is who you have treated them as. But it doesn't matter. Because it's true love. Not everybody can respond to that. Some people choose to go the other way. Even dealing with the homeless, I know it can be dangerous. Dealing with special needs children, they can have violent tempers. So, not everything is roses. And Sandy knew that. Sometimes people just don't respond well. But it's not how we're judged in our actions. Because we're already assured. Jesus told us there are 2 commandments. The first commandment is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then Jesus went on and said the second one is like the first. He said to love your neighbor. Well, how is loving your neighbor like loving God? I hope this is something that you can absorb into your hearts. If you look at another person, they are the created of God. So if you love God, truly love God, then when you see somebody else, you should see that spark of creation and love the God within that person. That, to me, maybe each of you might have a slightly different way of looking at it, but to me, that is how you learn and grow in loving one another. Look for that spark of God. And then you can become a part of what God has taught us to be. You can grow. Your desire to focus on what's in it for me starts to evaporate. That's the process. That's the anchor that we as Nazarenes try to help people to see. And I really believe, even during her frustrations, her orneriness, her humor, she still saw that spark within other people. She may have gotten frustrated with some people, but that's okay. She still saw it. And I think that's exactly how we should try to remember Sandy. With that love, but we should also try to follow. She was an example of God's love. Let's also try to follow that example. She wasn't a saint, but she was a loving, caring person. And let's each one of us also seek to be loving and caring people. And now that brings me to the end of the main part. I want you to understand that this is important to me, to each of you. The people around you, no matter how frustrating they may be, they have that spark of God within them. Help them to nurture it, to grow it, and to become the kind of person that you would like for them to be able to grow so that they too can become an example of God, just as each of you are. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Lord, again, this is a sacred time. It's a time for us to say goodbye to the earthly remains of Sandy, who's sitting here. Her remains are sitting here as ashes within the urn on this table in front of me. We know she's not in them. She is already with God. But we still want to fill that hole in our hearts. So Lord, help us. Reach out to us. Show us that love that you have for each one of us. And help us to fill that hole, to mourn that loss. Lord, go with each person in this room today, with each person who later watches on the video. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. And finally, brothers, rejoice. Aim for restoration, comfort one another, agree with one another, live in peace, and the God of love and the peace will be with you. Thank you. Our food is not all here yet. It will be arriving any moment. A couple of people went to pick it up while we were talking. So if you could go ahead and discuss among yourselves, talk among yourselves, socialize, share memories, share hugs. Go ahead, and we'll have food in a little while, and we'll be able to share that food. Everyone is welcome. There's nobody not welcome at this table. God go with you.